Here in Ontario, we are at the start of an election campaign. Mr. Ford is looking for re-election, wants to be re-elected in June. Jay Goldberg is with the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. He joins me right now because you were saying just off air, that sounds like a bunch of Liberals getting re-elected. They want to spend and spend.
They want to spend, 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 and Doug Ford got elected on cutting taxes, and he's run away from that. The Ford family and Doug Ford had a record of standing up for taxpayers, and the last election they proposed to cut middle-class income taxes, to lower the price of gas by 10 cents a litre. They've done part of that, but not all of that. And, you know, the government seems to be walking away from all of these tax cut promises and instead spending billions of dollars with no plan to balance the budget and just drastically increasing the province's
debt. So wait a second.
All
All that debt, they can blame that on COVID. They can still say we want to build streetcars and roads and everything else, and all that debt, not us. COVID, nature.
Well, they might say COVID, they might say Kathleen Wynne, but the reality is in their first year in office before COVID, they increased the deficit by $5 billion. So the justification that COVID's the only thing to blame is not true. And the government could very quickly table a plan to balance the budget in the next couple of years if they simply stick to the fiscal plan they laid out in the last election, but they're not doing that. There's no relief for taxpayers, and they're spending billions and billions on things that they've not promised in the last election they were going to do.
And I guess the interesting political thing, I know you're with the economy as opposed to politics, from my point of view, the political thing is that neither of the opposition parties are going to say, well, you can't spend, you've got to clamp down on all that spending because the Liberals will spend even more, the NDP spend even more. Yeah. So really, what's a taxpayer? The Taxpayers Foundation, they are bereft, but for you, of someone saying, this has got to stop.
So Ontario has a debt of over $440 billion. We're the most indebted subnational government in the entire world, more than California, more than any other government in the world, and Doug Ford doesn't seem to have a plan for how to deal with that.
Well, he does. He wants to increase it and give checks to everybody so they all say thank you, Mr. Premier, and vote for him again.
And we're spending more on debt interest than we're spending on post-secondary education in this province because of the bad decisions our politicians have made for years.
Oh, that's because of the Liberals for the 15 years earlier.
Well, it may have been the Liberals before, but as we say when Justin Trudeau has an excuse with Stephen Harper, they're in government now and they need to make the right choices.
Do you think, so what you're saying, with the opposition not doing its job, there's no hope on that. Do you think that Ford Nation, you live in Ontario, this Ford Nation that comes up and supports the Premier, supported his brother when he was Mayor of Toronto, do you think that there is some gumption on behalf of people to say, listen, this has simply got to stop? Or are they going to get sucked in and like the checks?
Well, look, getting money back in the pockets of taxpayers is a good thing, but the Premier had some bolder tax cut promises that he had in the last election. I think Ford Nation wants to see that.
Jay, I hope you're right. Thanks very much. 3 minutes. The simple fact that nowhere in the mainstream press was there an analysis of Trudeau's speech to the European Parliament and parliamentarians' reaction to it is proof positive of the need for this show and other independent analysis. Please tell your friends. Subscribe. Press PayPal so this guy behind the camera can get paid. And thank you for watching.